So the documents that is required for your ILR application as a skilled worker, this is if you are the main applicant, and I'll talk about the dependent as well. So if you are the visa holder, the one that holds the visa, these are the documents that the Home Office is going to ask you. And I'm doing this video based on the popular questions that people have asked after I did the other video. So the documents that they are going to be asking from you, the skilled worker that is applying for your ILR, after you've qualified, remember, after you've met the eligibility criteria and you have your money available, they would want all passports that are issued in your name. Okay, so the passport that you're using for the application, every passport that you've held in that country, even if it's expired, they would want to have those passports. They want evidence of your absence and reasons for your absence from the UK. So if you've stated in your application that, I'll walk you through the application process after this video. If you've stated in the application that you have left the UK at any point, whether you went for a holiday, whatever you went to do, they want evidence of those absences. So in my case, I've gone on lots of holidays. I used my travel tickets or my travel itinerary or my hotel reservations as my evidence for those. Other people also use a letter from their employer stating that they were granted annual leave during that period to go for that holiday. But for me, because I changed employers a lot every year, it wasn't possible for me to go back to trace employers to just chase that. So the only evidence I had was my travel itinerary, which is my flight ticket and my hotel reservations, to prove that I was outside the country during these periods. The next thing they need is a consent for Home Office to verify the checks of account in your name. So the account that you are submitting, they would give you a consent form so that you sign it for Home Office to verify that account that is bearing your name. Another thing also is evidence of your immigration status. So the last COS that you had, you generate a share code from that COS on your immigration portal. I know that now everything is online on your e-visa. So you generate a share code from that e-visa and you add it to your application, because they're going to use it to verify that indeed you have that visa that you are saying that you have, if it makes sense. The next thing is a pay slip, a recent pay slip. So it's 1 month pay slip they ask for. That's the most recent. So let's say if I apply in August 23rd and you haven't been paid on this August 23rd, you can use July pay slip. But what they are saying is that that pay slip should have been dated within a calendar month of that application that you are making. I hope it makes sense. So 1 pay slip and then 1 bank statement. So a bank statement, which is a recent bank statement where your salary actually passes. So what they are checking is that the pay slip you've submitted corresponds with the bank account that you've given. So let's say, for example, if you've stated that you are paid £3,000 or £2,000 on your pay slip, they want to see that £3,000 or £2,000 paid by that company in your bank account. The next thing they will ask from you is a letter from your sponsor. So your employer must write must write a letter for you to support your application, and they have specific things that they're asking from your employer. Okay, so the document or the letter that your employer is writing, I'm reading because I have mine here, I'm reading from it. It says that, number 1, the letter must state that you are needed in the employment for the foreseeable future. So in case of whatever, do they still need you in that employment? The letter must state that. The letter must state your nearest applicable SOC code, which describes your employment. So if your SOC code is, for example, 2237, 2236 or whatever, it must state it in the letter that this is your shortage occupation code. The next thing is the rate of your pay in the format that it is given in your COS. So if your COS said your pay rate is 27,000, that letter should also state that your pay rate is 27,000. However, if you've received a salary increment, it can write that this is your salary because your salary has been increased over time. You should also confirm that the rate that you are receiving is appropriate to your job code. Okay, the letter should also state that the salary that you are being paid is appropriate to your job code or your job title. It should also state if you're maternity leave or paternity leave or whatever, it should state. But if you're not maternity leave or paternity leave, that is fine. Basically, these are the documents for the main applicant. And then also, if you've not written English test already or you don't have any proof of English, Obviously, they will ask you for your IELTS, but usually skilled workers have written IELTS as part of their professional registration before they came, so they will not ask you for your IELTS again. They will ask you for evidence of your life in UK test, which is the reference number that you use for your life in UK test. They will ask for evidence of that reference number as well to add to your application. That's why it's important to write your life in the UK test. I wrote my life in the UK test last year, May, and I did my application of ILR this year, so it doesn't really matter because it doesn't expire. If you're the dependent, all these things apply to you: the money, the requirements, and everything, except obviously the employer letter, because you came here not because of an employer, you came because of your spouse. Your spouse brought you, so you must submit evidence of relationship. So you must state that the relationship is valid. Evidence of the relationship could be anything like joint account, bills that you've paid together, your marriage certificate, pictures, things to show that the relationship is still valid, you are still living together, and it is still a family. If you don't have this, obviously then you can't be a dependent of that person. You can't make the application for it to be successful, because the main applicant, there is no proof that you are still together. So that is one difference between the main applicant's application and the dependent's application. Submitting a letter from your employer, because obviously it's the employer that brought you and gave you the visa. And then for the dependent, you are submitting proof of the relationship, because it's the relationship that makes you eligible to continuously live in the United Kingdom. So I think these are the documents generally that are asked from both sides. With the children's one, it's quite straightforward. They don't ask much. They want to know if the child is still in school in the UK, what school do they attend, the address of the school, and things like that. It's not anything that is difficult, just their passports and their pictures. And if also, obviously, if they've traveled as well, their travel history and where they've been, and evidence, obviously, of their travel. And you, the parent, if you're going to submit the biometrics with them, they will need your passport. You, the parent, your passport to scan to verify that, yes, you are the parent or the guardian of the child. So this is the basic one. If your application is not straightforward, then I would indulge you to involve an immigration advisor or a lawyer, solicitor, somebody to guide you, to point you to the right direction. The next video is going to be the application step by step, proper, to the time you submit.